Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we are taking on a massive, really wide-ranging news cycle from the June 28th, 2026 edition of the Daily Tech Reader. We're going to connect the dots across the globe, cut through all the noise, and get you straight to the facts that actually matter. It's a big one, so let's just dive right in.
Here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're starting heavy with global crises and politics. Then we'll move into the big AI shakeup. From there, we'll check in on markets and economic health, pivot to extreme weather and space, and finally, we'll wrap things up on a lighter note with culture, sports, and celebrations.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, Global Crises and Politics. We need to ground ourselves immediately with the devastating human cost of those twin earthquakes in Venezuela on June 24th. The situation down there is incredibly dire. The National Assembly has now confirmed 1,450 dead, alongside 3,150 injured. It's just a stark, heartbreaking number that really puts the sheer scale of this emergency into perspective for us. Now, in response to that, there is a massive global effort underway. As search operations push into day 5 this Monday, heavy machinery is finally fully deployed. To put the physical damage into perspective, satellite data estimates nearly 60,000 buildings were either damaged or completely destroyed. But thankfully, rescue teams from 24 different countries are on the ground right now, working tirelessly through the rubble. Shifting over to the Middle East, we're seeing a really rapid sequence of events straining the fragile U.S.-Iran ceasefire. Just last month, we had that tentative agreement about the Strait of Hormuz. Well, that's shattered. After an Iranian drone attacked a commercial vessel, U.S. CENTCOM responded by striking Iranian military surveillance and air defense infrastructure. And because of this escalation, diplomatic peace talks are, for now, completely postponed. Bringing it back stateside, we're tracking 3 major domestic developments today. First up, in border enforcement, federal authorities just uncovered a historic 2,000-foot drug tunnel connecting Mexico to the U.S. Second, President Trump announced on Truth Social that he's nominating former Oklahoma State Trooper Lance Schroyer to lead ICE. And finally, in Louisiana, we've got a Republican Senate runoff between Trump-endorsed Representative Julia Letlow and State Treasurer John Fleming. Political analysts are watching this one like a hawk, as it's a direct test of the president's primary clout heading into the midterms. Moving on to Section 2, the big AI shakeup. We are looking at a wild contrast right now between the top players in AI. So OpenAI just unveiled their new GPT 5.6 models, Sol, Terra, and Luna. But here's the catch. They aren't releasing them to the public. Following Florida's recent lawsuit over ChatGPT safety, Washington is now treating frontier AI, like Anthropic's Fable 5 and Mythos 5, as products requiring strict review. So OpenAI's launch is limited to just 20 government-approved organizations. Meanwhile, Google's parent company, Alphabet, is dealing with a totally different crisis, a massive talent drain. They lost 4 senior DeepMind researchers to rivals in just 6 days. And the financial shockwave of that talent migration? Unbelievable. When key figures like Transformer co-author Noam Shazier and AlphaFold Nobel laureate John Jumper jumped ship for competitors like OpenAI and Anthropic, Alphabet's stock took an absolute beating. They lost roughly $269 billion in market cap in a matter of days. If you're watching the tech sector, this shows you exactly how fragile investor confidence is when the AI research pipeline takes a hit. Which leads us perfectly into Section 3, Markets and Economic Health. So we got some profoundly mixed economic signals on Friday. It's almost like a split screen. On one hand, Wall Street closed out a brutal week. Tech stocks dragged the S&P 500 down to 7,354, and the Nasdaq down to 25,297. This was driven by soaring AI infrastructure costs, anxiety over the OpenAI IPO timeline, and Middle East tensions pushing oil up to $69 a barrel. But look at the actual economy. Q1 GDP growth was positively revised upward to 2.1%, and we saw a 0.7% rise in both personal income and consumer spending in May. It's a really fascinating divergence between tech-heavy market panic and resilient, everyday consumer fundamentals. All right, shifting gears entirely to Section 4, Extreme Weather and Space. If you were outside this weekend, you know we are in the middle of a massive global heat wave. Germany absolutely sweltered through a record-breaking 106 degrees Saturday. Over in the U.S., Dallas-Fort Worth is facing a scorching 98-degree forecast for Sunday. But honestly, it's going to feel well over 100 degrees, especially when you factor in 25-mile-per-hour south winds and an overnight low of just 79. You basically don't cool off. And the National Weather Service is saying no frontal relief is expected anywhere near the region through July 4th. And sadly, that intense heat and wind is literally fueling what's shaping up to be the nation's worst wildfire season. The Cottonwood Fire in southern Utah has exploded to an astounding 71,000 acres, sitting right now at 0% containment. It's gotten so bad that the National Weather Service's Salt Lake City office had to issue its first ever particularly dangerous situation red flag warning.
So how on earth does this extreme weather connect to space? Well, check this out. A brand new study from the University of New Hampshire proves that powerful solar storms actually cause measurable changes in North American precipitation patterns within just hours or days. The data shows a direct link. The stronger the solar storm, the more dramatic the regional weather shifts down here on Earth. It's a totally wild connection. Speaking of space, astronomers just solved a huge, decade-long mystery. For 10 years, they've been scratching their heads over the so-called pink planet, located about 57 light-years away from us. Well, this week, they finally cracked it. Scientists have definitively figured out the planet's composition and exactly where its highly unusual atmosphere came from. It's a tremendous breakthrough that really reminds us just how much we're still figuring out about our own cosmic backyard. Meanwhile, a little closer to home, we've got some high-stakes maintenance happening in low Earth orbit. There have been growing concerns about the aging systems on the International Space Station, so NASA has scheduled a spacewalk for Tuesday, June 30th at 8:35 a.m. Eastern. Astronauts are heading outside to replace a vital wrist joint on the Canadarm2 robotic arm. This is absolutely crucial to make sure the station can keep up its essential day-to-day operations.
Finally, let's lighten things up with Section 5, Culture, Sports, and Celebrations. World Cup knockout stages are officially here, so let's rapid-fire this round of 32 schedule. It all kicks off today at SoFi Stadium with Canada facing South Africa. Looking ahead to Wednesday, we have a huge clash for the USMNT against Bosnia-Herzegovina at Levi Stadium. The big storyline there? Mauricio Pochettino is sweating over the fitness of Christian Pulisic. And if you're a soccer fan, you've got to clear your schedule for Monday's massive slate. Brazil versus Japan in Houston, Germany versus Paraguay in Boston, and the Netherlands taking on Morocco in Monterrey. Gonna be incredible. Over in entertainment, tonight brings the 2026 BET Awards at 8 p.m. Eastern, hosted by comedian Drusky. The big story of the night is definitely Cardi B. She leads everyone with 6 nominations, including Album of the Year. In other music news, festival goers got the shock of a lifetime when T-Pain made a surprise debut at Electric Forest, dropping a totally unreleased collaboration with the late Oliver Tree. Also, we need to do a quick rumor check and dispel some wild stuff going around online. Yes, Harry Styles did briefly collapse on stage during a concert, but sources have confirmed this was just a brief choking scare. It had absolutely nothing to do with that extreme European heatwave we were talking about earlier. So fans can breathe easy, he's doing totally fine. To wrap things up, as we look toward the July 4th holiday, there is a massive world record attempt in the works. To mark the nation's 250th anniversary, dozens of technicians are gearing up to fire off approximately 851,000 fireworks. It's being billed as the most ambitious display ever staged. So I'll leave you with this. After a week of intense global tension, shifting markets, and extreme weather, are we truly ready for the sheer spectacle of 851,000 explosions lighting up the sky? Think about that as you head into your week. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.